Off. I am super excited today. I have Roland Osage, who is a friend of mine from the San Francisco Bay Area. And how long have we known each other now? Is it like a couple years?
I want to say, yeah, 2 years. I think that's about how long I've been in coaching, and that's where we got acquainted. And then I don't remember if how long you've been at Real.
2 years.
Yeah, so I think it was like right at that time. I was like coaching and then Real. So yeah, about 2 years.
And we had for a while this we were sharing the same coach, which was kind of how we all got connected with Jeff's crew. So, but it's
Yeah.
awesome to stay connected, and we always see each other at conferences. But you are someone I've wanted to have on this webinar for a while because I think you bring, just like a good perspective on things, and what you're doing is really working right now on social media. Also, I know there's a ton of people that don't love showing their face. So I called this like faceless video tours, and look how everyone doesn't have their face on camera. So maybe
I
that,
think that's probably why this one did so well on Instagram too. It's like,
yeah.
oh, I can do something that will work that I don't have to, just get ready
Yes.
for.
Okay, so you can drop a one in the chat if you are someone that is what caught your attention. You were like, I would love to make videos, but I really just don't love showing up on camera all the time. I know I feel that way myself.
Yeah, I would drop a one in the chat.
Yeah. So I want to show you guys on the screen. I'm just going to share real quickly in case you're not following Roland. Let me show my desktop real quick. Are we seeing this okay?
Yes.
All right. So if you're not following Roland, here is his account. He just has over 10,000 subscribers, which is a good solid number on Instagram. But you also, I feel like, have a huge following on TikTok. I know we're not really talking about TikTok, but you are over here with 127,000 followers there. So you
Yeah.
get business from both channels. Do you want to share just like a little bit about your business and just
Yeah.
people like about yourself and what you're doing?
Absolutely. So yeah, Roland Osage here from the East Bay area. It's just a little bit east of San Francisco. I've been actually 7 years this year licensed and started off with, flipping homes and things like that, which kind of sparked me to get my license. And then I started helping a friend buy their house, and then it was just kind of off to the races from there. So I didn't start doing video content until about year 3 to 4, with a lot of trial and error. Like these past 2 years is really where social media started working for me. So I just say that to tell people that like it's some people it's super instant, and I'm always very envious of people when that happens, where they're just like they just do really well, they just take in information really well and they make it happen. But for me, that wasn't the case. So this year's been my best year yet. Right now, we're at 36 transactions. I think I'm still missing a few since my mom and I partnered together. And about 40% of those have come directly from social media. So that's in between TikTok and Instagram and a little bit of YouTube. YouTube being my lowest performing out of TikTok and Instagram. TikTok being my best, Instagram being my second best.
Yeah.
So I really started doing these tours because they were getting like how home tours in general were getting super popular, but I noticed that people were doing them all very similar, or real estate agents were doing them all very similar. If you guys ever heard of Tyler Hassman, his
Yes.
videos really took off, in which case a lot of people got a lot of inspiration from him. So they would do the kind of style where it's like selfie style, where they start the home tour and then like, this is what $700,000 gets you in X city. And I just didn't want to do what everybody else is doing, but I read Alex Hormozy's book, $100 Million Leads, which really sparked an idea, which he said every business needs to have an undeniable offer. And that like, I was like, what the hell is a real estate agent's undeniable offer? You know what I mean? There's millions of us. How can we really differentiate ourselves? So I came to the conclusion that our undeniable offer as real estate agents is homes. So I started one. The whole way this started is I did just a version that I saw that I liked on TikTok, and that video just immediately took off, which was me not having to show my face, me just taking people throughout the tour of the house. And then I realized I could do that same thing on Instagram just a lot quicker, because TikTok, the way I do there is, usually 5 to 7 minutes. They're long form walkthroughs on TikTok. So that's kind of how this all came about. And once I saw something that started working really well for me and reaching a mass amount of people, that's what made me just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. So If any of you out there are doing video and you see something that does a lot better, even if you have 1,000 views on one versus your normal 200 to 300, do more of those thousand, what's getting those 1,000 views, because it's obviously just the algorithm and your audience telling you that I want to see more of that.
And I want to just show people an example because I think I know which type you're referring to. But
Mhm.
what Roland does is that you still feel your presence in the showing. It's not just like, a bunch of flashy pictures of a
Yeah.
house. And you're not really in it, but it's just like if I was doing a FaceTime virtual tour with someone who's out of state, that's exactly how I tour homes. I'm just like, okay, notice this, notice that.
Yep.
So I'm going to see if I can share one more time here. Um, are y'all still seeing like my screen on?
Yes.
Okay, so let me go to one of these ones. And I'm not sure if I'm picking one or not, but usually you'll see one that has your hand or something appear in it, or you might go through. I'm not sure if this is a good
Yeah, if you go up, I should have like my best performing one pinned up there unless I
this
accidentally
one.
unpinned it. Yeah, that's weird.
Right.
It must have gotten no, it must have gotten unpinned. You go to popular right there. See the little tab to the right, upper top, little lower?
Oh, I see.
Almost. Yep. Perfect. There you go. There's like an 8.3. You should have something in there.
Okay.
This is my absolute favorite of the.
Oh,
This is one of those.
well, I don't
really
know what I
rare ones,
just
like,
did.
That's
Okay.
fine. That's fine. You'll see, they'll get the point.
And it's in Alameda, and it's pretty damn cute.
So are you
Beautiful
talking
tree
just
in the
as you're
front.
recording it? Like you're not doing it
No.
for later?
So I would run out of breath if I did that. I would get like there'd be so much I would be missing. So that's kind of the great thing about this is like when I'm doing these tours, in which case I do about, 7 in one day, and then I have enough for the week to be able to post 6 to 7 days a week. But I get to go back to my computer, pull up the MLS, especially a lot of these like historical homes. I get to kind of, if I need to, just like read the listing description, do a little bit more research, but I don't spend a crazy amount of time on doing that. It's really just like the basics of it. But I'm able to come back and then really educate everybody and build trust within that knowledge that I have. If I were to do this in real time, I would just be like running out of words and like I said, running out of breath. So it's really nice to be able to come back and then educate myself further, and then just like I said, just educate people further, and then just do better, since I have that time to kind of sit down and do it after.
And then the other thing is for which I think is genius is not all of these are your listings because you would
Yes,
obviously run out of listings if you just only did your own. So
for
how are you
sure.
getting permission to do these tours?
Yeah, so we had an assistant. We're in between assistants right now. So I was having her do the outreach, which was super cool. Having map them
Yeah,
all out after they gave me yeses. But it's really simple. I have a template which I'll put in the chat at the end of this call, where I just reach out to the agent, send them a text, and probably about 1 out of every 10 times I'll get a no. For whatever case it is, like my seller only wants my marketing or whatever it is.
right.
So yeah, it's really simple. I mean, every once in a while, I won't get somebody that responds. Usually in those cases, I'll still go do them if they didn't respond and it's a vacant and go show. But I'll say that, our community, which I know every community isn't like this, is pretty supportive for the most part. As long as you're not doing like disrespectful things. There's some agents that will, go on and like kind of say some stuff in front of the camera that is like, so they've seen my work, and a lot of these people that have these listings, or even agents that don't see my listings, every once in a while they'll ask like, "Hey, can I see an example?" And then once they see like the following that you have, it's like, "Oh, please go over there
Right.
and yeah, and do a video."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as far as why do you think these videos take off more than some of the other ones that you're putting out there?
That's a great question. And it took me probably not too long to realize this, but it's the house.
Yeah.
So going back to the house being the undeniable offer, it's the type of house. So in my market, it's really just playing to your market. In my market, it is historical homes, Victorians, mid-century modern homes, Spanish style homes. It's homes that most people like. I guess the masses wouldn't sit there and look and be like, "Oh, I love those type of homes." But once it comes to their attention, they want to follow, they want to see more, they want to see more. I would assume Austin playing to the market is your model homes, your brand new construction, right? And I'm sure Austin has some other areas too, which are really cool, and like some historic homes and things like that. But us here in California, the only thing that's getting built is like condos and townhomes.
Right.
So there's not too much of those we can do. We have one-off, new construction homes, which we'll do every once in a while, but it's really just playing towards like not seeing the all whites, everything all over a house, which is super common in every single market, but showing people just colors and, wood trim and just these crazy details that we never will ever get again, within housing.
No, I love that. I do think it's that you do pick even on your profile. I think on Instagram you said something like unique. It's something about
Yeah.
maybe it was on TikTok, but you love
Yeah.
showing unique homes that's not
Unique
your.
homes.
See, I suffer. I live in the suburbs, so I'm saturated with new builds, and they're all like the pretty white boxes. But
I know.
I'm going to try an experiment because I've noticed like the algorithm has changed. And in the past, I could do a dumb reel with like a lip sync thing and it would just take off and get, thousands of views. And I'm noticing that I'm like, okay, my engagement is down a little bit. And I think a lot of it is also when something's just like some like cool photos or a cool home or a cool part of the city, then it is more shareable.
Yes.
Just because people could be like, oh, that's cool, and just share it out, or whereas if it was just my face talking, I feel like sometimes maybe that's a little less shareable unless they know me. uh,
Right.
but yeah, I think leaning into the model homes where they're at least like furnished or something, if you are like me and you're looking at big empty white boxes, also showing the views. I always like to sell hill country views, so I'm going to try doing more like showcasing the views outside the
Yeah.
could be an idea too.
For sure. And I think that's a great point you brought up too, is like algorithm changes where, especially on TikTok, I've definitely felt algorithm change. I think a lot of it is to do with we're seeing a lot of agents do that type of style, which I was doing a talk the other day where I was like, everybody should get on this, you know what I mean, while the wave is happening, you know what I mean, because it works and it's definitely repeatable to be able to do. But I also sprinkle in a lot of other stuff because I don't want to be caught just doing that if the algorithm changes and then scrambling after the fact. So I've always liked, other than TikTok, kind of doing some of the business highlights that I do on there too and listing videos. I've always liked to just sprinkle in other things, especially on my Instagram, to where people are getting a variety of things. They're not just getting one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's smart. You also like do some really amazing listing videos, which is why Tom Ferry and Jason Pantana always showcase you.
Yeah.
I love the simplicity of the home tours, but you have such a creative genius on your listing videos. If you
Thank
guys
you.
have not watched any of them, I'm gonna play the one that's probably the most popular, but there's a bunch that
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
love as well. Let me just share my screen again. Sorry, I'm not the smoothest at sharing. Like,
You're doing a great job. You're doing a lot better than I would be doing.
okay. All right, y'all can still see this.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in on this one. This is like my all-time favorite video.
It's Roland, a man whose life seemed to be working against him. Things always felt askew for Roland, like he was missing something. That was until he stumbled upon 224 North Grant Street in San Mateo, California. For the first time in Roland's life, everything felt right. It was like finding the missing puzzle piece he'd been searching for. The brand new flooring throughout. Walls so smooth you'd think they were buttered. A kitchen with soft close cabinets. Pristine bathrooms. And the best part, less than a mile to downtown San Mateo. Roland could picture the life he wanted in this home, or rather, the life he needed. So, Roland did what any sensible person would do. He contacted the real estate agent that very day.
I just love it. Your facial expressions to everything are just so perfect.
And the rest? Well, the rest is history. Let Roland's story be a testament to you all. When opportunity knocks and it feels right, seize it.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was super fun. I always like sometimes I honestly feel like, man, I'm doing way too much. Like, there's got to be some people or some, whatever it is, clientele that's like, I don't know if I want my real estate agent doing all that. But I found that like once I really started doing those things that I just felt were good ideas, it really, really panned out. So I always like tell people to just kind of trust that marketing brain and just go be goofy. Because I think for a long time, like real estate was like you had to be very professional and very like, suits and, you know, be for everyone type of thing. But I think that's really, really changed in the last, 2 or 3 years. And, people just want to see personality and see that you're a person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have like a creative process, or is there like where do you get inspiration from?
The biggest inspiration I get is from listening to music. So I literally will like I'm just any song, whatever it is, and it's just some like think of an idea from that song is where a lot of the stuff comes from. Um, Other creators will spark some ideas, TV, movies, just things like that. Movies is a big one too, kind of playing off of like just different scenes, different comedies and stuff like that. So I would say music being the biggest one, but I would say the biggest thing for execution is the second an idea comes into my head, I have to write, it has to go somewhere. So for me, that's Trello. It goes right into my Trello board. Like even if I'm driving, I have to get that in there or else I know it's going to just disintegrate.
So your Trello board, then you just have like a board of like it just songs, inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
then once the right listing video comes along, or the right listing comes along, then I will get into the script of it or like the shot list or whatever it is, kind of from there.
Do you also have like a crew? Like who does the listings? Is it just you and one videographer, or do you have like a bigger team or?
Yeah, just me and one videographer. We have him on a retainer right now, which sometimes works great for us. Sometimes it doesn't work so great. It really is just like up to us and how much we can fill his plate with for the most part, within reason. So with those, it's like it's really simple for him because we come up with everything. And, obviously he has his creative input and tells us like what to do once we're in the moment. But yeah, it's kind of a win-win for us for the most part.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I love your ideas on that, but like I said, they're harder to come up with the creative ideas where I think like the home tours though, just the amount of views and everything that you're getting. I mean, some of them have
exactly.
5,000 something shares on Instagram, which is really crazy to me. How are you getting from just having the likes and shares to actually getting business? That's the always
Yeah,
the thing because the vanity metrics, like, oh, I got 1 million views, but no one called me. It's like, okay, that's not that's not that exciting. How do you actually generate business and start conversations?
for sure. If you want to share your screen, I can kind of take it
Sure.
through while you do it. Um, because I think that would be great to give people a kind of a visual
And
of it.
you are you able to share your screen? I can make you a
I might
co-host.
be able to. Yeah, give me 1 second here. Let me pull up my Instagram first.
Can we
Just so you
make
guys know.
sure anyone from Real Academy, if you can make sure that Roland is co-host, he can share.
All right, let me pull up Zoom real quick.
Okay, you're a co-host, so
Yep.
you should be able
Cool.
to share. Yeah, if you can drive us through, that'd be amazing.
Okay. All right. So, you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So Linktree goes here, and it's these two. These are like my money makers.
Okay.
I get a lot more buyer leads than I do seller leads, but I'd say 30% seller, 70% buyer, somewhere within that range. They click this form, and I think it's the simplicity of this form. So I use Wufoo. A lot of people use Jotform. There's really no difference whatsoever. This was just a recommendation to me from another agent that they use this something similar. But I've seen
Okay.
some people's where they're like, 20, 25, 30 questions, and it's like, if I'm a buyer, I don't want to sit there through that. You know what I mean? I don't want to fill out an intake form. So it's really simple. Name, email, number, profession. I think this is a really good one because in my market, it's it's just a higher price point market. So this just like starts off good with like me just kind of knowing what I'm getting myself into.
Mhm.
Call or text, and I will kid you not, 90% of people hit text. So I think, and that's pretty normal for the most part, but I just feel like in our industry, we've always been taught to like pick up the phone, call, but some people just don't like that. They like to be texted. They like to know that like they're not going to get spammed. And then so easy to set a call after that text. Um, how soon do you want to start the process? Have you obtained the pre-approval yet? What city do you currently live in? What do you want to purchase in? And then this is a big one too that I think makes people feel really special is I want to make sure I follow you back. Please enter your social media channels below. So yeah, that's just like, those are my two money makers, but there's plenty of people that still just go straight to the DMs and
Okay.
it's same difference, right? People just, from there. I'll say like from the video views too, which is really cool that I get to kind of take on listing appointments is these websites before I started doing these type of videos and like reaching a lot of people, my property websites would not get a lot of traction whatsoever. So now that because of the following and the traction, these listing property websites have gotten so many more clicks since people go to hit the link and they just kind of click around there. Other than that, so for some proof, people can see some client reviews because I think even though you build a lot of trust on social media, people still will have some type of thing like, okay, is he just a social media guy or does he really, does he really work? Does he really sell houses? So they can see all this type of stuff. And then just kind of like poke around and get to know me even a little bit more.
That's awesome. No, and what I love, in case you couldn't see it, or if you're looking on your phone, you're like, it's too zoomed out, just go to Roland's Instagram page and you can
Yeah.
click the links. It looks like he has a link tree on there, so you can click his links and just kind of explore it and see what he does and kind of get some ideas that way. How about Instagram stories? Are you using stories much to get engagement or?
I am the absolute, this is why I've always been so envious of you. I am the absolute worst when it comes to stories. Like, I don't know what it is. If like, I don't want to say I overthink it, but I don't know if I just like to really curate my content and I'm better at that. And then when it comes to the stories, I'm just so lazy with it.
See, I already put a story that I'm going live with you already. So
See, that's
I
like, I'm
while we're
didn't
here.
even cross a thought into my mind. But it's like a muscle, right? We have to get better at that stuff. Because I know, and we've talked about this before, like I'm definitely leaving whatever it is on the table, money, conversations, submissions, anything. So yeah.
I think though the most important thing is like with your Instagram, I feel like on the feed, that's where you want people to discover you. So your feed is always going to be like a first impressions and just for someone to, if they like one of your reels, that's usually how they get discovered. You have more non-followers that usually see your reels, so it's a way of drawing them in, and then they're
Yeah.
going to, if they like it, click your profile, check you out, see if they get more of that content and follow. But stories is definitely a way of like showing more behind the scene. And then your link tree, again, it's like ultimately you're trying to capture people's information and get them off of Instagram because that's the
Yeah.
worst to try to message people back and forth. So I love that. I will probably get some inspiration from going back at your links and your forms. For mine, I just have like a Calendly link where it's like book a phone call with me. And then I have like a similar little form where they have to tell me like what's their
Yeah.
call, how do I prep for that call, but just anything that where you can kind of capture people. And you look like you also had some free downloads and stuff. So just something where you're giving people value, I think is great.
Exactly. So I've had some people go to here, and we're going through a whole transition of my website right now. So all these links up here, they don't even work right now.
Okay.
But I've had some people go here to click that, and then they end up submitting their information on my website that I was using previously
Yeah.
too. So it's like it just gets them in there one way or another. I will say when it comes to these forms as well, my process is when this gets submitted, I use Zapier and it goes directly into Lofty from there. So that way I don't have to like manually do anything. It just goes right into there into a TikTok or an Instagram segment once they submit. So another thing, just like eliminating steps. And then after that is inputted into Lofty, I have a smart plan set up where after like 5 and 10 minutes, after 5 minutes, a text message will go out. After 10 minutes, that email for me, like, hey, I'm going to send you an email that has a link to book a call, will go into. And then usually, if I were to put a percentage on it, I'd say like 70% of people are already just booking that call once they get that email.
Yeah.
But the importance, and like you said about having like the Calendly link, I'm sure with yours too, it's like it goes into your CRM, at least once they fill out that Calendly link. But some people aren't ready to talk, even though they're filling this out. Like it's like almost like saving a video for later. They're like, oh, let me just fill this out, and I don't have to talk to them now. Maybe I'll get to it eventually. But once they're in the CRM and then they're getting your emails and your like updates or whatever it is, I think that's a huge key as well, because it's just a matter of time before you convert them too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But, what's your advice or strategy going into 2025? Like, what advice would you give someone if they were going to get started on Instagram or maybe enhance their Instagram? Any advice?
Yeah, I would say definitely tours. Like just get your content buckets, like we've all heard a million times. I think 3 to 4 is a pretty good amount of content buckets. I think more house tours, definitely, because it's just working really well right now. And I've seen so many people after getting on webinars like this, some that execute right away, some that don't. And they're getting, like there was a guy, Eric with Real and Real Military, and he was like that day after we got off that call, he went and did a TikTok and Instagram tour, and that TikTok video did like 1 million views like that day. So, you asked me a ton of questions. I'm always here to answer questions for anybody, just like you are, Shannon. And I think house tours have to be number one. I think local presence should be number two. So I do a couple different things locally. It's um, just small business highlights. So it's almost a very, very similar feel as the home tours, but it's going through a business as well. It's like we call them speed ramp tours, where you kind of slow down and then speed up, the footage and post edit, and then slow down and speed it up, and then it's just a voiceover. So those are really cool because I've gotten business directly from, business owners within their network, and then they get a ton of views. We do like a collab post. They're super thankful because a lot of small businesses don't have a ton of time to do content. So when they have a video that takes off, they're just like, whoa, that's so cool. I do a local podcast, which is really cool. We talk about everything from like Bay Area to California. And
Matt was slightly jealous though. He's like, you picked the wrong person on your webinar.
he's always jealous. He's gets plenty of shit. No, I'm joking. So yeah, Matt's awesome. We do a lot of stuff together. And same thing, me and Matt do such similar content, and we have totally different clientele, and it works so well for the both of us. So we've had such a good working relationship because we kind of keep each other accountable, like with some slight competition to it as well, but we're such good friends, and it's like that's just how our industry is. And how it should be. And then we help each other. Like when there's like gaps in whatever we're doing, we're like, why don't you try this? Or why don't you try that? Or I really like this, or I really like that. So having that person in your market, whether it's your business partner or not, just works really well. So some of these clips do pretty good in regards to like the podcast kind of content that we do.
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say like just more local stuff, because it's networking on top of, helping small businesses out within your community. And then that just opens so many more doors. It's like it's the opportunity. They're like, hey, why don't you come down and do a video? We're putting on this event or something. So I think that should be people's like main focus. Personally, is like going local. A lot of people think that like going mass, like the national route, or talking about those type of topics, makes the most sense to go, quote unquote viral. But I found that my most viral content has come from all local content.
Yeah. And you're going to be attracting more of a local audience, which is ideal. And that's something I want to improve on. So, I am, like I said, kind of changing some of my Instagram strategy in 2025, doing some of those new builds, new model home tours.
Yeah.
And, even if my husband and I are just out on the weekend, just looking at it as an example of like, okay, while we're here, can we just take a couple of pictures of the restaurant or the whatever we're at and just showcase that? And then I love the idea that you can do a voiceover, because that means you're not like trying to edit it there and you can't enjoy
Yeah.
your time out, but you're just like, let me snap a few things, I can edit it later, do a voiceover, take some pressure off.
Exactly. But yeah, I think like, and same thing when it comes to the businesses, like being the first, especially if there's something new opening up, like being subscribed to all of your whatever, your news outlets for your local area, because that's where I get all the information of like what's happening, that and like social media. So if you're the first, like for instance, this one right here, where I did a highlight for this place called Urban Air. It's like this giant like kids. I mean, for adults too, but like
We have them here
trampoline
too,
park and
yeah.
basketball hoops and all this crazy stuff. So I was the first person to do like pretty much a video on this, and it just went absolutely crazy. Like they invited me to the friends and family night when they opened, and one of the workers there was like, "Oh, your video is the one is what made me like apply for a job here." So it's
Oh,
just
wow.
like just a crazy amount of reach that happens when you do stuff like that. And then once you get those local followers, I mean, like you could boil it down to percentage, but some people within this, you know, and who follow you are going to be a buyer or a seller eventually because you're sprinkling all that other real estate content in there too.
Yeah. And to me, local stuff is part of real estate because it's like
Yeah.
you have to love where you live and you're showing the local lifestyle and everything else about it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I'm going to turn it open to the audience. If you want to
Yeah.
unscreen, we can just open it up for Q&A. We've got a few more friends that have joined us today. So anyone have questions right now for Roland, you can either come off mute and ask them or drop them in the chat for us.
So I got are these all your listings or do you film other listings within your group? So yeah, the majority, like a lot of these, more than a lot of these are not my listings. In which case I told Shannon I would drop my template to how I reach out to agents and then ask them to if I can do a video on their listing. It's really simple. I just say, hey, I'm going to be doing an agent preview on your listing. I'm going to send it to some clients I think that it may work for, but if it's not to their liking, do you mind if I post it to my social media pages? And like I said, most of the time they're all saying yes. Um, are you making money from your Instagram account? What is the threshold for starting being paid by them? I don't have monetization set up on my Instagram. I do have it set up for TikTok. On TikTok, I make about $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And it gets paid every 15th of the month. So I haven't heard of people making like a crazy amount of money from Instagram, and it still amazes me that TikTok um, is able to pay people that amount of money.
Yeah. Someone is asking, Brandy's wanting to know what apps are you using to record your voiceovers?
That's a super good question. So it's all CapCut. I used to record directly within Instagram and TikTok because I felt like like that's what was giving me an edge or something like that, kind of like a myth. But it's not. So, and those apps, if you ever played within those, they can be finicky sometimes. Like sometimes you'll lose audio or like your video stored in there. So if something happens with the upload process, then it's gone. You got to do it all over again. So CapCut, I think everybody should get super familiar with. And then the tools I use too, I'll write them in the chat. Really simple. Ulanzi microphone. It's just a plug-in, really, really simple thing to use with Bluetooth. It's like $150 gimbal right here. And then my iPhone. That's pretty much it. Like 80% of my content is iPhone.
Yeah, I would say the same for me. I film everything off my phone. The only thing I hire out professionally is my house tours of like for YouTube. I don't have the bandwidth to edit
Yeah.
long form videos, so I do have a videographer that I love that will do my house tours and neighborhood tours. And then after that, like pretty much everything on Instagram, I make it, myself, and CapCut is the easiest. I've actually done 2 episodes in the past. If y'all want to go back and watch the replays, I have a YouTube channel where I put all of the past recordings, but I did a couple with Ian Williams, who's in Austin, just like CapCut basics and then a CapCut advanced. But there's all kinds of tutorials out there, and that's the easiest one to work with for sure.
Yeah. And most people can get away with not even paying the $10 a month for like the pro membership.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I
Um,
have a pro one just because I like some of their little transitions, but you can
I
do a
do
lot
too.
of stuff for free, and
It's
it's
so worth it.
effective.
So worth it.
And then the last one, do you have the same content to TikTok and Instagram, or do you like distinguish between the two?
So yeah, I distinguish between the two. These are all such good questions. I feel like I'm doing a bad job of not going into depth, which I'll try and go a little bit further. So yes, TikTok is literally, I don't even use a gimbal on TikTok. I just walk around like this, and just try to keep as steady of a hand as possible. On Instagram, I'll pick out like the best tour from that week that I've done throughout my 7 for that day. Like after this call, I'm gonna go do 7 tours within my area for the week. And then Instagram, like I'll find that house. I'm like, okay, this is the best one out of the 7. I'll pull out my gimbal, do my TikTok one first, then go back and pull out my gimbal. And then I'm just doing a quicker one because I know it's got to be a minute to a minute and a half on Instagram versus my long form on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then from there, you know, it's really, really simple to do that speed ramp kind of style on CapCut. You know, it might take, if you're going to do it for the first time, it might take you a little bit longer that first time, but once you get it down, it's just like anything else. It's just super simple to use.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I was editing it, I was just like, oh, this is so messy. And but then, like I said, once you get past it, then I don't even think about it. I can edit stuff really quickly on it.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other thing, so I want to talk about the TikTok ban. What's going to happen? Do you have a different a strategy in case it is banned in January?
Yeah, so I've heard such conflicting things. You know what I mean? Like it's so funny because I just saw like an interview with the soon-to-be president, where he was saying that you know he'd want to keep it around because he doesn't feel like it's fair to only have like one monopoly essentially, right? When it comes to social media, and then of course you know our current president you know put everything into effect. So who knows? You know, it's one of those things where a lot of people were like saying to me, well, are you sure you want to put in all that effort if it's going to be gone? And I'm like, there's no predicting what the heck's going to happen. But if I would have listened to those people and been like, I don't want to put that effort in, then I wouldn't have gotten so many opportunities and sales and you know so on and so forth. So I'm really hoping it doesn't. I know that there's some things that should change around TikTok, but I think the reason for wanting to get rid of it is definitely more for selfish reasons rather than like security reasons and things like that. But that's just my opinion, of course.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed it doesn't get taken down.
And I also want to say like YouTube Shorts is
Yes.
another one because YouTube Shorts for a while were only 60 seconds, but they just increased the limit to like 3 minutes or so. So you can do a
Yeah.
longer YouTube Short. So that could be another platform, especially if you're going through, you know, if you're doing YouTube as another channel as well. And that's something I kind of want to do on YouTube as well as I've been so far on my YouTube shorts. I just kind of started getting into YouTube. I'm taking my long form videos and I do have a virtual assistant, a VA who chops them up into smaller little segments and kind of puts
Nice.
3 teaser videos from my one long form. But my coach is trying to tell me like you need to actually create content for YouTube shorts, which I'm like, oh, like it's another
I know
content
it's a whole other
really
thing.
stuff
You're
for
like, what the
Instagram,
heck?
whatever. But I thought, well, if I'm gonna do more home tours on Instagram, this would be another just an easy thing. And I'm trying to pick neighborhoods that are like I can work my own neighborhood. We have like 4 or 5 builders here, and so there's always like inventory homes. So I'm like, well, I can just walk down the street and try to pick out like a 5 or 6 homes and just do a couple of tours.
That's awesome.
But I like your idea of you're just pointing one because I'm like,
Yeah.
I could do a 3 minute tour just where I'm like, okay, so here's what I like about this. Here's something to look out for. I love how they did this, and just put that on YouTube Shorts. That's something I'm going to experiment. With.
Yeah. And to answer your question, yeah, I will if TikTok does in fact get banned, then I will definitely switch over to YouTube because that's where like TikTok is YouTube's biggest competition. So I could see so many people going back to YouTube because TikTok's very informational and of course so is YouTube. And I would definitely just double down on doing way more tours on Instagram than I would you know, have been previously.
Yeah. So Cindy from Istanbul. See, I told you you got like international followers.
That's
Someone else said they
crazy.
were in Spain wanting to to join in. So
Hi,
yeah, I'd
Cindy.
love to hear what
Hey,
your question is.
hi, I have two questions. So
Yes.
I joined a little bit late. I'm glad that I'm here. Shannon, Roland, thank you very much.
Thanks for
So
coming.
regarding, so I'm usually in Salt Lake City, but I own a brokerage here in Istanbul that I've had for
Wow.
20 years. So I do business in both
That's so
markets.
cool.
But I joined Real in Salt Lake City.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay,
Congratulations. Welcome.
thank you. Um, Okay, so two questions. One, I've gathered that you're referring to you're doing Instagram reels because you said you haven't really been pushed on the stories. So
Yes.
with your reels, how long are you finding to be the best time amount?
Like to post or the best amount of time for the video?
Oh, let's say both.
Okay. For posting, for me, Instagram is always mornings. Personally, I felt like that's the best. And I've seen some people have great traction in like evenings and even afternoons. So I think it all is just kind of preference. Um, for TikTok, it's 2 p.m., like without fail, 1 to 2 p.m. And then as far as the length of the video for Instagram Reels, it's anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half. Sometimes if they're 45 seconds, they do great too. And then for TikTok, for me personally, with what I do, it's around 4 to 8 minutes.
Okay. And so then my second question is, on Instagram, there are like three different types of accounts. You can have the personal account, a creator account, and a business account. Could you speak a little bit to those? And then also, are you paying for the verified, the little blue check? So I did that for a while, and then when I decided to trim all these freaking subscriptions that I have, I just decided to let go of that. So I'd love to hear
Yes,
your thoughts on that. Thank you.
of course. So basically what I do as far as the creator, I do a creator account. The reason why I do this is because I love music. I think music makes your videos so much incredibly better. Like for instance, on like when Shannon was showing the listing video of mine, I didn't hear the music and I was like, oh my gosh, the difference that music makes
Oh,
in that
I'm
video.
sorry.
It's not your fault, but that was what was going on in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, the difference that music makes is insane. Um, so that's where I do creator account. If you do a business account and all these things, like you're blocked from using like certain songs and sounds and so on and so forth. But I bet like Shannon is so much better at Instagram than me, so I'm sure that she has her different inputs when it comes to that. I feel like I'm missing your other question, but I'll let Shannon take it and then I can kind of piggyback too.
So repeat your question is on the creator account. That's also how I have it set up. And it's the same thing. I love music. I do a
Yeah.
lot of throwback 90s songs and stuff, which relates to my audience. It makes me look old, but most of my clients are in their late 30s, 40s, that kind of range.
Play to
And
your market.
fun. Yeah. So I like pulling in music. I feel like on the other accounts, you don't get as many creative options. So yeah.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
how about, thank you. Okay, I think my problem is that I switched to a business account when I did that blue check thing, when I stopped with the blue check verified, which really like jacked just that didn't work for me. And so it's not working for me. And I need to, so I'm gonna change. I have and maybe you'd speak to this. So I have a personal page where I like to put all my daughter's dance, my son's this and that, our family things. And then I have a business for my Salt Lake City real estate business, and then for my Istanbul brokerage. So I have three accounts, which to me, it's very easy to manage. Like I can whip out three things so quick. And where I live is I do a lot of lifestyle, so it's super easy. I'm a skier. I used to ski competitively, so I live right in the mountains. It's really beautiful, and
Yeah.
Istanbul is I think the most what I don't know how they call it, like the most pictured something something on Instagram. It's really
Uh,
a really very beautiful city. But so on that blue check, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I don't do the blue check. I do have two-factor authentication set up because that's where like the big thing, like heard of a lot of people getting like hacked on TikTok and things like that. So I think just like the security of it's super important. And I could bite myself in the butt, right? Like I could be like, oh man, like something could happen to my account and like I should have gotten that blue check. So I don't have a blue check. But other than that, I would say my advice would be one profile for everything. Because I think that kind of going back to what I said earlier, which you might not have been on yet, but I think that our clientele and the people that have yet to work with us just want to see us for who we are, and they don't want to, just a bunch of business stuff or like a just sold or just listed. In my opinion, I would kind of swipe right past that. So it's the same thing. It's like I just try to put out what I think would be shareable, what I think people will resonate with and take a liking to.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions for Roland or for me, either of us? I think we might be good. Any final words, Roland? Anything else?
No, I just want to say I think everybody should follow Jimmy on here too. Jimmy
Oh
does an
yeah.
amazing job
Yeah.
He
on
was on
Instagram.
recently.
Oh, good.
So one of the things I wanted to show you is I do have another YouTube account, which I'm going to get my VA to start helping
Oh,
me
I
clean
love
up.
that.
I need to do a better job of working on this, but I do have all of my past episodes. So even if we don't get like a ton of viewers today, we're getting lots of views. Like some of them are getting here's Ian did one 2.6 or
Oh yeah.
on the views, like people are going back. So I have all the past episodes there, and I will drop this into the chat because we always get people that are like, can I go back and watch the replay? And I do send it out. But if you subscribe to that channel, I'm also, one of my jobs for my VAs, I want him to go back and help me. Like, I'm gonna go back and kind of pick out some highlights, like key important things, and start posting out some little like shorter segments from all these episodes each week.
Yeah.
There's like maybe one highlight that you shared or that Jimmy shared or whatever. And then people, if they don't have time for a whole 60-minute thing, they can watch, at least a segment of it. So
Yeah. I know, it's like never ending amount of stuff we can do with our content that we do on a daily basis.
all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know that end of the year, everyone is super busy with family and business and all kinds of things. So I'm grateful that you guys got to take the time out to join us. And thank you so much, Roland, for sharing all of your knowledge and info with us. It's super appreciated.
Thank you, Shannon, so much for having me. I appreciate you guys. If anybody has any questions on what I do, just send me a DM.
Okay. All right. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.